That's the sound of the spray can as someone writes transphobe on your front fence. No, that did not happen to me. But I think that's what people think will happen if you step out of the shade and reveal yourself as a clinician that does not want to affirm children. But that's not what happens, and I also haven't received any death threats. I dare them. The title of this presentation is The Personal Cost of Advocacy. And I didn't actually select that title, Philip kindly did. I'm not sure if I've paid a personal cost. There were definitely hard times. The final outcome for me in terms of my job and registration is still unknown. But I've also had many, many really good experiences. And at this point, I'd have to say that it's turning out net positive. So what were those hard times? Before I was stood down, being in the hospital felt very heavy. Walking past those damn trans pride flags every day, talking to people while they were wearing rainbow lanyards and pronoun badges was dispiriting. Listening to clinicians carefully using a child's preferred pronouns whilst discussing cases with me generated a sense of disconnection from my workmates. I felt physically sick after we had an education session from a gender clinic nurse, and she said the hospital was running chest binder fitting sessions for girls. Hearing my boss talk about his 9-year-old daughter saying she identifies as a girl at this stage. All the Pride Days and the Ida Hobbit Day and the Wear It Purple week of events were insufferable and completely inappropriate for a children's hospital. They were getting mentally ill children from the mental health wards to create artwork to put up on the walls to celebrate those events. All of this only starts to feel tolerable once you start to push back. That oppressive heaviness goes away. Feelings are so good at generating action, but as we all know, they can really get you into trouble. It does amaze me that my colleagues could continue to go to work each day and tolerate the awfulness that was happening in that hospital environment. Even fellow Gen Xers were putting up with it. They mustn't have got the memo in 1986. It said, "We're not going to sit in silence. We're not going to live with fear. Oh, 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 oh." So I enjoyed pulling down those transgender pride flags from the mental health waiting room. I enjoyed sending out Abigail Shry's book to 50 of my colleagues. It was very enjoyable to put adult human female on my signature block and put gender critical brochures in the waiting room. I especially enjoyed putting my foot down and saying that I wasn't going to use the preferred pronouns of children. And it was such a relief to go to the Let Women Speak rallies, hold the microphone and broadcast my concerns very loudly to overcome the noise from the hostile crowd being held back by police. I didn't think the hospital would try to get rid of me. I'd been working for Queensland Health for over 20 years. I'd been working in the hospital for 8 years in various teams, and so I knew a lot of people. I'd been campus director of mental health for 3 years, so I was even on good terms with the executive. Working in the public service, the rumour is you can't get rid of anyone. But after 12 months of pushing back on the affirmation model in the hospital, I was stood down after I received a false complaint of transphobia from a teenager who I popped in to see for 20 minutes between meetings. He was upset that there was a plan to send him home rather than have him admitted to the mental health unit. I was wearing a face mask, which I was mandated to do by the hospital at that time, so there's no way that he recognised me as a local transphobe. He accused me of saying 2 phrases that I didn't say. They were not even close to anything I said to him. The experience of being stood down from work was a shock. I rang my sister while I was on the train on the way home, and we really didn't know what to say to each other. And walking up the steps to my front door and then trying to explain to my husband why I was back home at 9 a.m. in the morning was awkward. I've tried to keep my immediate family very much away from these work issues I've been going through. I haven't wanted to bring stress into the household, and I've wanted to keep home as an oasis for myself. Also, because I've got a daughter, she was 7 at the time and she's now 9, I desperately didn't want to advertise trans to her as a way to rebel against her mother in her teenage years. I think this has mostly worked well, but it's a little disconcerting when my husband starts letting me know about how outrageously bad the tickle versus giggle verdict was, because he's come across it on his news app about 3 weeks after the event. I think of him as a helpful barometer as to whether our issue is breaking through to people in the mainstream. It took about 2 months to receive the details of the allegations against me. After reading them, the lawyers told me that I would likely lose my medical registration. As the family breadwinner, that was a really big blow. I got a second opinion from a KC, and he agreed that I would likely lose my medical registration, mainly based on my criticisms of the motivations of my gender-affirming colleagues at the Let Women Speak rallies. So I had about 3 days of being really upset, too upset to even talk to anyone. And coincidentally at this time I received a message relayed to me from Jereth Cock, who's a GP in Melbourne who has lost his medical registration so far for 5 years for social media comments related to abortion and gender interventions for children. He said that he'd been let down by his lawyers who told him to keep quiet. He said, "The only way to protect yourself is to go public." So that's important for people to know about me. I went public not out of altruism or courage, but out of desperation to protect my registration. However, later on, my lawyers have told me that I could likely negotiate a good payout if I agreed to drop all my lawsuits, and I haven't taken that opportunity, so I have done the community-minded thing on that front. Going public felt great as a way to strike back when everything felt lost, and it was also very helpful in getting connected to people. There are people who messaged me after seeing the article in the Australian newspaper who have kept in touch with me this whole time, sending support and encouragement. And I have to particularly single out the Catholics as being magnificent sources of support, and being prayed for is very comforting, even for someone like me who isn't religious. Some of those early conversations were surprising in that some people did more than just commiserate with me. They suggested the possibility that this could be a challenge that I could meet, and that for whatever reason I was meant to face. That insertion of purpose and meaning was galvanising. I did go through a period of sustained fear. I felt like I was up against both the weight of the hospital and the state when the Labor government was empowering Queensland. The only relief from that fear came from looking for opportunities to attack back. I've kept the motto in my mind, leave no stone unturned. I didn't want to go down without having thrown everything that I've got into this fight. With the strategy of going public, you do have to have nerves of steel, because you never really know, will this media interview or quote I'm giving help me to keep my registration and job, or is it further jeopardising them? The hospital's second show cause notice included 30 allegations of breaching the code of conduct for speaking out in the media. I had to keep speaking out in the media despite that. And then there was the question of whether losing my hospital job would embolden APRA. And going out into the media also raises the stakes, because it adds the risk of being publicly discredited and humiliated. After Spotlight was aired on Channel 7 in September 2023, unfortunately I had the experience of about 3 to 4 senior men who I knew objected to the gender transitioning of children contact me under the guise of being helpful to warn me that I was in danger and needed to watch my back. It frightened the hell out of me, and I was naive back then and trusted them. But I've come to realise that my situation can generate strong feelings for some people, and they think they know better, and they want me to know that. So I've come to be really circumspect about the feedback and advice I'm given. I have to know that the person has taken the time to understand the situation at hand that I'm in, that they understand that they have ideas, but there's no certainty or clear path of what's right to do. And I think about where those people position themselves in relation to me in 2023 during those hard times that I went through. Also, I have no time for feedback from colleagues who are concerned that I'm being too aggressive or outspoken or not feminine enough, or that I might be placing my hospital bosses at risk of suicide. Honestly, they can all just fuck right off. If anyone knows a TV producer, I would love to see a reality TV show where a group of psychiatrists are each individually faced with the challenge of speaking up about a medical scandal and then having to protect their job, registration, family and public reputation. I'd love to see how different people play those cards. It may be defensive grandiosity, but part of me thinks that I might be the last man standing in that contest. It's interesting to watch what sustained fear does to women. We've had a few women in Australia go through the gender wars in the public eye in recent years, and we've talked together about our common reactions. I think that women who have a strong religious faith might fare better. Without religious faith, you are left searching for divine assistance, for a miracle solution to your problems amongst your fellow human beings. It isn't realistic, they can't provide it. You start to focus on meeting people with power and connections. You want to surround yourself with people of strength. You daydream about Elon Musk. You try to build up your own cachet of power through social media and professional activities. And women always feel this pressure to some degree, but sustained fear increases the psychological pressure to try to be more attractive in the hope that you will be viewed as more worthy of care and assistance. Unfortunately, people can smell fear and they find it repellent. It's a small group of people who can see the extent of your vulnerability and stay engaged. Mostly colleagues watch you losing and won't even help, even though they could, or people in the community want to help, but they often don't have any way that they can. I've had to face the fact that losing is a possibility. Unfortunately, it's not a fairy tale. You can fight as hard as you can and still lose. And this feeling of aloneness under threat just has to be tolerated. But last year I discovered amazingly that doing yoga each day stopped the fear and the searching feeling. It is possible to just let go of fear. So I will surrender on the yoga mat, but nowhere else. And there is a complex navigation that I'm learning, and I've made mistakes. Bravery is helpful, but if you go too far in that direction repeatedly, you give people too many opportunities to use you as a punching bag. And there's the strategic attack as part of trying to dismantle a dastardly system that is harming children. But there's also the reactive attacking driven by hurt and anger, where you can absolutely lose your dignity. But losing your dignity is an interesting experience, unpleasant, but it can be a little liberating. It starts with shame, where you feel like hiding under your bed, and then it moves to a feeling of being humbled and human, and there's opportunities for connection in that. You can pick yourself up and get back on with it, and you might have learnt your lesson. It's hard to pull back on this modern battlefield where you never have the end point of being killed. I think that unfortunately some of us have what is now a redundant element to our personal character, that of being prepared to fight to the death. It's hard to lay down your sword when there's no clear end point. It's choose your own end point. And I've found on this journey that there have been really interesting new experiences and challenges that I've had to rise to, but having too many of them makes it difficult to recognise yourself. And I sometimes wonder when and how I'll get back to being that woman who, apart from working and parenting, was mainly focused on things like brewing kombucha and making the garden pretty and enjoying Jack Reacher novels rather than trying to be like him in taking down the local gender clinic doctors. I've also discovered that it's possible to let go of caring about what people think of you, especially when all of your esteemed colleagues have shown moral failing by not speaking out about gender interventions to children. Who are they to judge me? But it probably isn't healthy to feel beyond reproach. Throughout all of this, thank goodness for the backbone of my family, always seeing the best in me and disregarding my mistakes. In times of crisis, their answer to the question of, "Do you still love me?" is always, "Of course I do." They remember me from before and continue to see me as neither elevated nor diminished by the events of the last 3 years. For example, my family will not care if I've made a single mistake in my content choices or language for this speech. Like all child psychiatrists, I see the family as a secure base from which to explore the world and retreat to when required, go hard and then go home. And the sense of having been cast out from the profession is actually fading now. In January this year, when it was announced that Queensland Health was ceasing the prescribing of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones to minors, I got so many messages of congratulations from my child psychiatrist colleagues that it reminded me of what it was like being in hospital having just had a baby. And running for President-elect has led to me receiving heaps of supportive messages from psychiatrists across Australia and New Zealand. So I don't think I can plausibly claim to be on the outer in my profession anymore. I still can't forgive the gender doctors for what they've done to children, but I do want to forgive any trespassers that I perceive were against me. Because, after all, how long can we look at each other down the barrel of a gun? So I'm not going to dwell on the lows, I'm going to dwell on the highs. Like a greatest plays compilation, let me list them for you now. Coming out in the media in June 2023, successfully defending myself against the first show cause notice from the hospital regarding the patient complaint and the Let Women Speak rally speeches. Launching 3 public interest disclosure processes, which are now all in the Queensland Industrial Relations Commission. Successfully defending myself against the second show cause notice from the hospital, including 30 allegations of breaching the code of conduct for speaking out in the media. Referring a gender-affirming senior colleague to the Crime and Misconduct Commission so that the hospital had to formally investigate their behaviour. Launching a Human Rights Commission complaint alleging political discrimination by Queensland Health for forcing me to affirm children's gender identities against my belief in biological reality. Successfully defending myself against the third show cause notice from the hospital, including 20 allegations of breaching the code of conduct for criticising gender-affirming colleagues publicly. Running for President-elect of the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists. Being the lead author on 3 published academic articles, the first criticising the previous Labor government's sham evaluation of the Queensland Children's Gender Service, the second exposing OzPath as a discredited activist organisation, and the third encouraging psychiatrists to contemplate how a loss of psychodynamic thinking in our profession may have led to the acceptance of gender-affirming care. And finally, gaining experience working with journalists and the media. I want to thank you all for being with me during this journey and for all the incredible efforts that you too have made in trying to push back. I find the lows of this battle just make the highs higher. If I had a wine glass, I would raise it to you now, to our continuing success. Thank you.